welcome to our collaborative call. If this is your first time, this call is for all of our agents here in Game Changers, as well as if you have guests that you'd like to invite, so they get an experience into some of our calls and what our organization has and offers. And so we'll have different guest speakers. This call is led by four of us: Janie Coffey, who's here, me, John Mikish, and Lars, and both of them are at the EXP leadership meeting today. So we kind of took on the heavy lift of it, I guess. And then we have, like I said, speakers coming in and we'll present as well and train. So I'm excited for this call and at the new time. So I'm going to introduce Garrett. Garrett is our guest speaker today. Garrett, when he started his real estate journey, he had only 40 names in his database. And in over 10 years, sold more than 650 homes, all through relationships, has not spent any money on leads. He's the founder of the 210 Realty Group. It's a 1%, top 1% real estate firm in Virginia with Dave Caggiano, who's on this call as well. And Garrett combines expertise, authenticity, and heart. He's also got the 210 Collective, which is the name of their organization at EXP. And he has a nonprofit community called the Faithful Agent, where agents can grow in their business and their faith. And so today he's going to talk to us about the PDA. And it's not public display of affection. That's what I thought when I first read it.
Could
I'm
be.
like, interesting.
That's
Maybe
the
so.
point.
Yeah. So take it away, Garrett. Thanks for
Thanks, Stacy.
presenting today.
Yeah, and remind me, what's our time frame? Because I want to respect that.
Yep. So we end at 12 or it would be
Yeah,
1:45 your time. So
perfect.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of information, and I apologize for that up front, but the intent of this is that you see the entire PDA formula is what it's called. And Stacy, thanks for letting me come on and share and teach. I have a book that's getting published in the fall. This is part of it. So excited to share with you all. Do I have share? Yes, I do. You're the best. Thank you. Let me do this. So how do we build a predictable, dollar productive, aka profitable business that aligns with who we are? I've been in, probably like many of you, for a long time, and one of the struggles that I've seen, Stacey, it was a really kind introduction, but one of the struggles I've seen is most agents are forced into this position to say there's one way to succeed. This is what it looks like. This is what a good agent is. They cold call, door knock, referrals, social media. They do all this stuff, right? And we often find ourselves not in alignment with who we actually are, right? We're so far away from who we were created to be. And we're going to dive into that a little bit. So how do we take our unique skill sets and actually build a dollar productive, a profitable business that is consistent, that is predictable, that is not all up and down, and that causes burnout, that causes frustration? And so we're going to dive into that again. I apologize for the speed of this. I want to get through the content so you have it, and happy to talk to anybody directly and serve in any way I can. So thanks again, Stacy, Janie, for running this. So let's just start here, right? Let's be really honest about what is a typical agent path in this industry. Well, we start out, right, thinking we're going to go straight and narrow. We're going to have a really profitable business. We got into this. We want more time freedom, more money freedom. We want to spend time with our family, get out of the W-2 life. Well, the reality of what happens, we have a bad client, lead gen is not going the way we thought. We're not making enough money. And then all of a sudden we end out of alignment, right? We end so far away, and many of us are so far away from where we intended to be. And it becomes difficult. We become frustrated in the challenge of looking at this and saying, how do I get back to where I meant to be, right? A lot of us get stuck there. And my hope today is maybe get you a little bit unstuck. And how do we get back into alignment with really where we intended to be when we started this business? So here's the main thing I want you to take away. This graph is as simple as it can be. Your success is going to be in direct alignment with how aligned you are with your lead generation strategy. Another way to say it is, the more authentic you are in your business, the more success you will have, right? The industry likes to say you can stay here and have a crazy amount of success, right? It doesn't matter if you hate door knocking, cold calling, just do everything anyways, do all the things. And I actually am counter to that. I think that's untrue. I want us to live both in alignment with not only what we do in our business, but our lives. We'll talk about that. And I believe that's how we get to the greatest level of success. And we're going to redefine what a win looks like. So we're going to do that today as well. How do we bridge that gap, right? That's the question, from where we are to really where we want to be. At the end of the day, confusion equals chaos, but clarity equals profits. And that's what we're going to build that in today. How do we do that? Using the PDA formula, building a predictable, profitable business that aligns with who you are. So these are questions that I want anyone to ask themselves, right? If we get to the beginning of this, is what is even my current lead generation framework, right? Those of you who have been high level or been doing this a long time, when you coach agents, or when I've coached agents in the past, some of them don't even know, right? It's, well, I kind of just do all of these things and eventually it ends up in business. And I'm thankful for that. But what is your current lead generation framework? What are the most effective lead generation strategies? What is the financial return on those? And do those lead generation strategies even fit my personality, right? Questions that we need to ask ourselves. How do we go from agents to business owners? These are the questions that business owners ask themselves. Agents just show up and kind of do whatever they need to do. It worked, and so they keep doing it. Business owners ask themselves good questions to go to that next level. So let's start here with being in alignment. Being in alignment, excuse me, what does that even mean? Right? From my experience, so I've been in for 11 years. As Stacy said, I've been fortunate. I've sold 200 or 650 homes, all by referral. I didn't grow up here. I started with 40 people in my database. And I did all the classes, right? I did cold calling, I did door knocking. Social media wasn't as big of a thing back then, right? You need to buy Zillow leads, you need to do X, Y, and Z, open houses. I've never done an open house in 11 years, for example. And going through all those classes, all that I realized, I was 27, I didn't know anything, right? But going through all those classes, what I realized was that's just not me. Even if it works, 5 years from now, if I built a business off of cold calling, I'm not even going to like the business that I have. So that's just not who I am. Who am I? At the core of who I am is a highly relational person. And so I just need to go figure out how to be really good at that. The industry, right? And I don't have time for a bunch of stories, but I had a coach. I was selling 50 homes a year already. I had a coach who said, and it was all by relationship, a coach who got on, and this is 2018, said, Garrett, you need to cold call 300 people this week. And I said, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm working 100% by referral. I just asked you to help me figure out how do I go home more, right? And she said, you got a cold call or you're not going to succeed. Get on the phone the next week. And she said, did you do your homework? No, I told you I wasn't going to do my homework. Like, that's not who I am. Well, she was trying to fit me into this industry standard that success looks one way, that success is one size fits all. And it's not true. We need to understand who we are, and we need to build a business off of that. So let's get to work. The truth is, the more aligned you are with the lead generation tactic, the more consistent you will be. If you're excited about social media, you're going to do it more often. If you're excited about door knocking, you're going to do it more often, right? If it's not who you are, you're not naturally going to want to show up. And so we're trying not to work against the tide. We're trying to work with the tide, right? So if you're aligned, you're going to show up. And then if you're aligned with that tactic, you're going to be better at it. I have a buddy who crushes it on social media. He loves social media. He wants to show up on social media. If he works hard at it, no matter how hard I work at it, because I don't care about social media, he's always going to outpace me. He just will. However, I love the relational aspect. I love building out a business that creates consistent, repeatable referrals. He doesn't. So as long as I keep working hard, I'm going to outpace him, right, in that process. So we've got to understand, how do I operate in my highest and best skill set? Because I'm going to show up more often and I'm going to just show up better. I naturally want to go learn. You can think about anything in your life. Some people love, to learn about fishing. Some people love about health. Dave loves about health. He just naturally does. So what does he do? He finds himself drawn to learning about it, drawn to reading books, drawn to listening to podcasts, drawn to paying for coaching for that, because that's what he enjoys. And so we've got to go with that flow. That's part of how we create success. Again, the more in alignment you are, the more success that you're going to find. I want anybody who's listening and reading the book, and whoever listens back to this, you can succeed by being yourself. At the end of the day, the industry is going to try to tell you got to become someone else because that's what success is. It is totally untrue. You absolutely can succeed by being yourself, 100,000%. And you're going to get equipped to do that today. So we're going to do some fun things here, Stacy. Sorry for these high quality photos. I know Game Changers is a high quality organization that I love being part of. So who wins in a race And I'll ask you, Stacy, because I think you probably know this question. Michael Phelps or a shark, if they're racing, who would win in the water? What do you think?
I think Michael Phelps.
Yes, well, then you should leave because you're ruining the entire point. No, right. A shark obviously wins, right? So, okay, Stacey, I'll give you another try. A Lamborghini or a 9-passenger van in a race, who would win?
Okay, Lamborghini.
Okay, good job. I'm proud of you. And then who would win Cool Runnings, right, versus the German team? If anybody, does anybody even know that reference, the Cool Running, the Jamaican bobsled team? You guys are looking at me like that. Todd, you should definitely know what that is. You live in an area that snows. Okay, good. All right, so Todd knows what that is. So the Jamaican bobsled team, obviously, that has nothing to do with anything. But the question is, why do they win? Why do they win, right? Because they're doing what they were created for. The Lamborghini was created to go fast. The 9-passenger van was created to carry all of my kids, right? We've got our 5th little one on the way. That's what it was created for. It wasn't created for speed. The shark was created to live in the water. Michael Phelps wasn't. He's a mammal. He lives on land. Well, sharks are mammals too, but he lives on land. Right now, he's really good at it, but he wasn't created for it, right? Michael Jordan was probably the greatest basketball player who ever lived. He went and tried to play professional baseball. Guess what happened? He wasn't very good at it, right? Why? It just wasn't who he is. He wasn't created for that. So why do we spend so much time operating outside of how we were uniquely gifted and wired? It just is not a good decision. It's not even a good business decision, right? So you might have felt this way. I was teaching this class in Maryland. This is in 2019. I was Keller Williams for a long time until I saw the light, and I've been at EXP, and it's been a great blessing to me. But I'm teaching this class. I'm talking about how to generate more referrals and build a business that way, and how that's how that was the only thing I'd ever done. And the sweet woman in the back of the room just starts crying. And I pause and I say, I didn't think my presentation was that bad that I made her cry, right? But I pause and I just say, hey, if you don't mind sharing, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you're up for sharing, do you mind telling us, why are you crying? And she stands up, she says, Garrett, I've been in this industry for 2 years and I'm doing what everybody tells me to do. I'm in the office every single day. I'm cold calling for 3 hours a day and it's just not working and I hate it. And I really wanted to quit. This is the first time I've ever heard anybody tell me it was okay to build a business the way I wanted to. Right? You might feel that way where you feel like everything you tried to do, this glorious idea of what your business was going to look like, all of a sudden you came into this industry and they said, no, you can't do that. Right? I was young in the industry. I was 29. I had just done 26 transactions my first year and we were going around. I was at Keller Williams, right? And so many good things about Keller Williams, not me putting them down. That's just my experience. I'm in the room, the ALC, the Agent Leadership Council, the top 20%. And we're going around sharing our goals. Everyone had been in the business a lot longer than me. They're better agents than me. And I was sitting next to our team leader who ran the office. And it comes around to me, I'm last, and we're sharing our goals. And I said, my goal this year is to sell 50 homes this year exclusively by referral. I'm not going to do anything else. And literally the first reaction I got was she laughed and said, Garrett, that's not possible. You can't do that. What else are you going to do? Right? The industry is built to say, that's not how this works. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what success looks like. And we're going to redefine that. So again, you could take screenshots, you could do whatever, because we're going to move a little quicker, but I want you to have an alignment test, right? Do I even like how I currently generate business? Does the work that I'm doing bring me energy or drain me energy? If you are at the end of going on a buyer appointment, on the end of doing an open house, do you feel excited or are you thinking, what am I doing? From when you are done creating that reel that, let's be honest, no one's going to watch because nobody watches mine either, right? Which is okay because you're trying to get out there and I respect for that. But when you're done with that, did it even fire you up? Because did you take the time to make that real when you could have been sitting down face to face with the client for coffee and that would have fired you up and been more effective, right? Does it bring you energy? Does it drain your energy? And ultimately you're following the crowd or maximizing your own superpowers, right? This idea of alignment, we don't have time for this pause, so I'll keep chugging here. This idea of alignment. So has anybody in here ever done a time audit? I assume you have, Stacey. You're the person I can see. I assume you have. Cool. So if you've never done a time audit, super quick idea. This is going to help us understand what is in alignment with who we are. Okay. So you pick 3 consecutive working days and every 30 minutes, you just stop and you just write down what you did. you'd be amazed at what you see, quite honestly. There's waste in there, right? There's stuff that we can get better at. That's okay. Pick 3 consecutive working days, stop every 30 minutes, write that down. And so here's what this would look like, right? A super quick idea of what that might happen. Here's what I did every 30 minutes. Then I want you to go from the time audit, right? You're going to actually circle anything that produced you money. And so that's lead generation. That's not responding to a client text, right? What actually produced money, but more importantly, is an energy audit. This is, I want us to really start to understand, how am I uniquely wired? So the energy audit is next to your time audit. I want you to come through here and label what happened. How did I feel at the end of that, right? So if it's just a blank, nothing happened, doesn't matter. Or excuse me, this is a minus sign, it drained my energy, right? So for me, whenever I'd done this, check Facebook, respond to emails, I didn't like that, drained my energy. Responding to text, talking to a lender, whatever, it was fine, nothing happened. Scheduled home showings, wrote notes to my database. That actually motivated me. I felt more energized. If I'm tired, I could still do those things. If I'm tired, checking email and posting on Instagram is gonna be a challenge for me. And so we start to understand, when we see where our time is going and we see what is happening with our energy, we start to understand how we were uniquely wired. Because if you love it, guess what? You're wired to do it. If it drains you, you're probably not wired to do it. Doesn't mean it's not necessary. Don't hear me say that, but it means we need to spend more time on the pluses and less time on the minuses, because that's how we're going to go to the next level. So doing a time and energy audit will bring value to you as you try to understand, minimizing the amount of time spent on the draining, maximizing on the energizing activities, and then give your best energy to the draining activities and your lowest energy to energizing activities. Don't have time to go into that. That seems counterintuitive. For me, that's the way it's been. I have a podcast. I love podcasting. Even when I'm exhausted, I put the podcast on Monday afternoons at 4 p.m. Why? Because I'm exhausted by then, but it doesn't matter. I love it so much, I can show up and do it well. My best energy goes to the things like, hey, I've got to do, making video text for lead generation is how I, every quarter, I've got to do those things. It doesn't fire me up. So I better give it when I have the best time, because I want to show up and do it well. I want to do this with excellence, right? So understanding how we have those flows. And then again, I'm just giving you things you can copy, you can screenshot, understanding what's even in your opportunity zone. Too many agents do too many things, and most of them actually don't move the needle. We just don't know. And so understand what's even in your opportunity zone within the confines of who you actually are, right? So if you love people, if you're a people person, which most agents say that they are until they have a client, they're like, I don't like people anymore. If you are, then open house and sphere probably is in alignment with you. That's your opportunity zone. So when you have somebody that comes to you and says, hey, I got a great idea for you, or here's a great opportunity for you to get in on the ground floor and buy these leads, you're like, that sounds cool. I'm not doing it. Not in my opportunity zone, right? We don't even know what to say no to, because we don't know what we're supposed to say yes to. So what is in the opportunity zone when it comes to who you are as a person and how you naturally show up? If you love social media and you just love, broad mass marketing, whatever it is, then cool. Maybe you should go farm. Maybe you should do social media. Maybe you should do door knocking. I don't know. You got to figure that out for yourself. And then the things outside of that are no longer in your opportunity zone. They're your distraction zone. Just say no, right? How do we make decisions? How do we go from being an agent to a business owner? Some questions around opportunity zone. We'll skip that right now. Understanding yourself. That's the key, right? At the end of the day, what do I love to do? And based on what I love to do, how do I build a business around that? I won't ask that question. I was speaking at this event, and right in front of me was this published author, New York Times bestseller, marketing, professional, and super amazing woman. And she gets up in front of me and she says, here's what I want you to do. She gave this example of Dolly Parton, and I don't know anything really about Dolly Parton, but she said, apparently Dolly Parton goes to bed with her makeup on every single night, because in case she gets woken up and has to do something last minute, she wants everyone to see her exactly how she wants them to see her. Now, I don't know anything about that. I've never worn makeup, and I'm proud of that. But if that's true, right? And so then she used the example, said, so here's what I want you to do. She's talking to a room full of agents. Here's what I want you all to do. You need to decide how you're going to show up, and you just need to make sure you show up like that every single day. And I remember thinking, that sounds exhausting. I just got to pick how I'm going to show up. And even if it's not who I actually am, and I got to pretend to be that every single day, that sounds exhausting. What about who am I actually, and how am I going to show up naturally? And maybe I just become better at that. So we're going to skip this question mine here idea again for the sake of honoring time. You can't beat someone else at being them, just like someone else cannot beat you at being you. The key at the end of the day is, how do you become a Ferrari if you are? And maybe you're a Ferrari masquerading as a passenger van. You've been doing what everybody tells you to do. You're operating as this passenger van. You really want to go fast, but everyone's telling you that's not how this works. And you're like, well, I think I'm a Ferrari actually, and I really want to be that. And everyone says that's not, you can't do that in this industry. None of that's true. Never let anybody tell you how this works, right? You can take advice, you can take wisdom, all those things, but you're the only one that knows you. And that's the key to build this. The more you're in alignment with who you are, the greater success you're going to have. At the end of the day, this is your job. As simple as I can put it, you got to figure out who you are and become exceptional at it. That's it. You might not love cold calling. That's fine. Don't do it. You might not love hosting open houses. That's fine. Don't do it. You might not love being on social media. That's fine. Don't do it. Maybe you do love social media, but here's the challenge for agents. You find out what you love to do, and then you go become mediocre at it. That'll never get you where you want to go. Figure out who you are. How are you naturally going to show up? And then just become exceptional at just that. This is your business plan. Who am I? How do I make this natural skill, this thing that I love to do? How do I turn that into a business? How do I make that something that is going to actually show up and provide for me and my family? That's it. Figure out who you are and be exceptional at it. That's what alignment looks like. And if you feel like you're out of alignment, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. If you feel like you're out of alignment, do the time audit, do the energy audit, start to understand, ask the people around you, who do you think I am? What do you think I'm good at? And then just build a business around that, because I promise you, not only is there lasting power in that business, but I promise you, you're going to become better at it. You will just naturally be better at a business you love to operate. It's just true. And that's my hope for people. Okay, no time for that. So then, how do we make it predictable? And yeah, how do we make it predictable? So, okay, great. I know what I want to do. I know I want to build. These last 2 points are shorter. I know what I want to do. I know what I want to build. But how do I build it? Right? Great. I love that I have permission now to go do social media more, or go do referrals more, or go cold call more often. That's amazing. But now what do I do? Right? So how do we actually make a business predictable? One of the challenges that we've all faced in this industry is the up and down. You go from, I just made 100 grand that month, to I made nothing for 3 months, right? That's hard. The up and down is really challenging. So how do we make it more consistent and predictable? And I think it's as easy as creating a lead gen recipe. So most lead gen strategies, right, at least the agents I've coached, is what I call the everything but the kitchen sink meal, right? You've got to clean out your fridge because you're going to get more groceries. And so you take everything you have and you just put it in the pot, you mix together, and you hope that it tastes good, right? Maybe it's, for us, it's social media, referrals, open houses, door knocking, Zillow. You're doing all the things and you just put them all into the pot, you mix it up. And as long as it creates the 15, 20 deals you need that year, great. You just do that again the next year. It's not strategy, right? It's hope. It's you pray and you hope and you put it in the pot. And as long as it produces, you just keep doing it. Well, what I want us to create is an actual, predictable result from a given effort. Meaning, when we create this lead generation recipe, we're going to know exactly what we're supposed to do and exactly what it takes to win, right? If you think about grandma's secret recipe, and forgive me for anybody that bakes, I have no idea if this is the recipe for a cake. I just made it up. Okay. But let's say grandma has a secret recipe for a cake, and it's flour, sugar, chocolate, vanilla extract, all those things, right? It's perfect. Every time you go to grandma's house, you love it because this is exactly what she makes. Well, grandma didn't show up one day and this is her first shot. Grandma couldn't go on Pinterest and figure out what the recipe, she couldn't ask Chat GPT, right? She had to make a plan, make a recipe for herself. She had to test the recipe. And if it wasn't perfect, which it probably wasn't the first time, she had to tweak the recipe and she had to try again. This is how our business is supposed to work, is when we start thinking about, how do I create my own recipe for whatever it is I want to do in lead generation? We start just like grandma did. I'm going to make it up. Right now, there's a lot of good information and there's a lot of good ideas and frameworks and all the stuff. But what I do isn't necessarily going to mean it's going to produce the same for you. I don't know. So let's say, for example, you have, you've gone through that alignment. You say, you know what, I really need to figure out social media. Well, then great, create a recipe for yourself, put in the ingredients, bake the cake, and then taste it. And if it's good, awesome. If it's not perfect, then tweak it until it is perfect. If it tastes terrible, then do something completely different. The goal of building your business and creating predictable results is having a recipe that you run through over and over and over again until it's exactly right. When agents ask me how was I doing, literally exactly 50 every single year for my second year on, it wasn't 49, it wasn't even 51. It was 50 every single time because I had spent 3 years perfecting the recipe. I knew exactly what went in. I knew exactly what came out. That's how we build a business. That's how we go from agent to business owner. So if you're social media and you say, I want to build out social media, great. Why don't you try something like this? I'm going to post one personal video a day. I'm going to post one business post a day. I'm going to do it for 30 days. I'm going to execute and track. It's that simple, right? Open houses. I'm going to host an open house on Saturday and Sunday for a month. I'm going to put out whatever, 10 directional signs and door knock 50 doors. I don't know how open houses work. I'm going to do that in advance, right? Here's my recipe. I'm going to try that. Most agents, if you don't give yourself a long enough runway, you never take off. And so most agents are on the runway for a little while and they're like, that didn't work, and they scrap it. That's not what you're supposed to do. You should be tweaking it, right? So you say, here's my open house recipe. And my goal is to generate one closed client from that. Great, run the recipe, actually do the work. And then at the end, if it didn't give you a deal, don't say that, well, I guess that doesn't work and scrap it. Say, what do I need to change? And tweak one thing, tweak two things, right? Maybe instead of Saturday, Sunday, maybe I do Thursday, Saturday. Maybe I put out 20 directional signs and I'm going to try that again. Right? I'm going to keep trying that because the only time you can't afford to fail is the last time you try. It's a quote from Charles Kettering, one of my favorites. If you have a long enough runway, you will take off. You just can't shorten the runway. You got to just give it enough space until your recipe has been tried and tested enough that now you know, if I do this, I get this. That's what lead generation is meant to be, right? So you build out your own recipe, you taste it, or you put in the ingredients, you bake it, and then you taste it. Was it right? Was it not? Don't scrap it. Don't give it up. If this aligns with who you are, your job is to figure out how to be excellent at it. So just keep trying. For 3 years, I just kept tweaking and I just kept tweaking. I had my own 36 touch system, just kept tweaking. I thought it was good. It wasn't perfect. I thought it was good. It wasn't perfect. Just kept tweaking, tweaking, tweaking. And then now I've got a recipe. I know what to do. Now it's easier because the building phase is hard, but now it's easier because I know exactly what to do. This is what good lead generation looks like, in my opinion. You create a recipe, you execute that recipe over and over until it becomes your own secret recipe. That's what predictability happens. So I talked about that. So here's an example, right? I've helped different agents go through this. So let's talk about prospecting, right? I'm going to buy Zillow leads and circle prospect for 2 hours a day, right? Maybe that's my recipe, something really simple. Or FSBOs. I'm going to offer FSBOs tips on how to sell their home. I'm going to make 20 calls a day. I'm going to drop off a listing packet to every FSBO that is out there, right? I don't even know how many are right now. All right. So you just, something super simple, right? Here's an idea of a lead generation recipe, excuse me. So here's what I hope is going to happen. The prospecting, if I do it 2 hours a day, it's going to give me 4 deals a month, right? Maybe if I do client events, it's going to give me 2 deals a month, whatever. If I do 4 open houses, it gives me 3 deals a month. Whatever it is, you start to figure it out. And now it becomes easy. I know exactly what I need to do to generate 2 deals a month. I do a client event every month. I know exactly how to generate 2 deals a month. Great. 2 deals a month is 24 deals in a year. Awesome. I need to hit 60. Well, if I've got 24 deals in a year, how do I add 36? Let's go create another recipe. Well, if I prospect for 2 hours a day in this scenario, it's actually going to produce 36 deals a year. So fantastic. Now I know that if I want to sell 60 homes in a year, I do a client event monthly, I prospect 2 hours a day, boom, there it is. It's that simple. We overcomplicate. We listen to the noise and go after the distractions that say that's not how it works, as opposed to saying, okay, I'm gonna habit stack my business. I'm gonna do what I need to do, create the recipe I need to create to get X amount of deals that I need, 20 deals a year. And when I need to go to 30, I'm just gonna build another recipe that's gonna add on 10. And I'm just going to do those things. And I love that you guys want me to come door knock. I love that you guys want me to, put out this mailer because you're the #1 agent in a zip code. That's fantastic. I appreciate it. That's not me. This is what I do. And doing this consistently is how I sell 30 homes a year. It's that simple. We have overcomplicated it. We've been sold hope by companies like Zillow that says, if you put money in, it's a Pez machine. If you put money in, I'll give you a business. It's just not true, right? We've got to create our own recipe. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Point is this: decide on a recipe, follow it exactly, bake the cake, and continue tweaking the Legion recipe until the perfect cake comes out. I love food, so I'm going to talk about it as much as I can. That's the whole point of this recipe. Okay, so how do we make it as dollar productive as possible? And this will be quick. How do I make it as dollar productive as possible? AKA, how do I be as profitable as possible? So here's what is typical, right? An agent goes and spends money on a Legion system and they sign a contract for 12 months. And 4 months later, like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't know if anybody's done that before. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I heard that all the time when I was actively coaching. Well, I just signed up for this whatever, and I pay $1,000 a month, and I just have all these leads sitting there that now I don't do anything with because I don't have time. That happens all the time. Again, agents are sold hope and we buy it instead of just doing the work to build it out and figure out what the system's supposed to be. Dollar productivity is intentionally investing as little money as possible to get the greatest return possible. That's what I mean. All right. I care very much about you all being as profitable as possible. And it doesn't mean that you need to spend more money. In my opinion, it just means you need to stretch that dollar and make it worth more. So I'll give you an example. Excuse me. This was my business, right? And I think I have a slide after this. This was my business, my 36 touch system. Earlier in my career, I was spending a lot more money thinking that's what I had to do to generate business. So when I was doing Popeyes, it was $10 gift. I was spending $2,000 on client events or $2,500 on this movie event. And I thought that was the key, right? Now we were having good success, but I was just spending a lot of money thinking this is what's going to get my business. And that was necessary for me, right? I went with it. It worked. And I could have just kept going with it. Well, instead, my philosophy became, well, I was getting a $12 return on every dollar I spent in my referral system. That's good, right? Most agents would say that's awesome and you should keep that. Well, for me, that wasn't good enough. I kept asking, if I'm getting $12 return on the $1, how do I get that $1 instead to generate $30? Right? How do I hold that same dollar accountable? Because often, this is my personality too. When I'm like, hey, that worked. I got $12 for every dollar I spent. That's amazing. I'm going to go just spend another $50,000 over here or another $1,000 a month over here so I can, buy Zillow leads because now I can just build my business a little bit better. Instead, I want us to be the people that stop and say, okay, that worked, right? Maybe I spent whatever amount of dollar on open houses. I just spent $5,000 last year on open houses. I have no idea. And you say, that was great. My return on that, my GCI was $50,000. Awesome, right? I got a really good return on that. And most agents say, I'm just going to run that back. What I want us to get in the habit of saying, okay, I got a really good return on that, but I wonder, what do I need to do? How do I need to tweak that recipe so that same $5,000 can produce $100,000? And I'm just going to keep squeezing and squeezing and squeezing until that same dollar is genuinely totally maxed out. Here's what I mean. So I was making $12 for every dollar I spent. I kept squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and literally just kept asking myself the question, how do I make that dollar worth 30? How do I make that dollar worth 50, worth 70? And got all the way, this is actual numbers, where every dollar I spent created $90 in return. It was a 9,000% ROI. I spent 10 grand by cutting our client events from 2,500 to 800 per event, from cutting the Popeye gifts from $10 to $2, from cutting our mailer costs in half. All of a sudden, I was just learning what happens if I do a cheaper client event. What do they actually want from me? I just ask the question, can I spend the same dollar and actually make more off of it? So all of a sudden that $10,000 that was producing $300,000, which is still a really good return, $10,000 produced $900,000, right? We hold the dollar accountable. That's the point. Too often in this industry, we look and we say, yeah, I would take the $75,000. I would spend 75 to make 900. That's a good business. Don't get me wrong. And so we're just okay with it. And we just stop and we just run and we just keep doing the same thing. But instead of doing that, what if you said, I wonder how I could make $900,000 cheaper? How could I do that? That's dollar productivity. That's how, when the market shifts, we still have cash in our bank account to be positioned to build our business and grow again, right? That's how we stop thinking like an agent and start thinking like a business owner. Excuse me. You see this all the time, right? The agent in the office or our virtual office, right? You see someone who's like, I did Zillow deals. I did 30 deals and last year, 10 of them. And this agent, Steve, is like, well, I only did 15 sales in Sphere. I need to make more money. And Janet says, well, look how good Zillow is. It's $1,000 a month. And Steve says, okay, I'll just go do that. Right. Instead of thinking the appropriate way of what does it look like? How can I squeeze more for what I'm already doing? That's the way we need to think. Well, my hope is for any agent, but especially as EXP agents, right? We've got an incredible opportunity in front of us from not just being on the hamster wheel of selling a house, and that's the only way we can earn money. We've got an incredible opportunity here. But along the way, while we are still selling homes, because most of us are, myself included, why don't we become more excellent at it? Why don't we build a business that looks more like who we are? Because that's a way to attract and serve other agents, for them to say, I don't know what you did, but your business just got better and you look like you're having fun. Can you tell me what does that look like? And you're able to say, man, I focused on who I was to become excellent at that. Right. I built a recipe. I tried it. It's getting better. And then I just held my dollar accountable. And they're like, is it really that simple? Yeah, it is. We don't have to overcomplicate it. And they're like, well, tell me more about that. Hey, I'd love to partner with you. I'd love to help you. Right. Because the best way at the end of the day to serve agents is to become more excellent ourselves. And for them to say, how did you do that? And you say, let me help you do that. Doesn't mean they're all going to come to EXP, and that's okay. Let's encourage and rise every real estate agent that exists. How do we do that? We got to go first. And so if we're operating out of alignment, and for the sake of time, I'll just wrap here, Stacy. But if we're operating out of alignment, if we're operating as an agent and not as a business owner, because we don't have a recipe, we never stop to build one. We just kind of do things. Or we're operating in a place where, hey, it worked last year because I spent $1 and made 10, and I'm never going to hold that dollar accountable again. Maybe we stop and just say, you know what? I bet I could make that dollar worth $50, and I'm going to be in a much better position, whether that's to bring on agents to my team, whether that's to give more money to my church, whether that's just have more free time with my family. If I am excellent in what I do, and if what I do aligns with who I am, I'm going to become more excellent at it. My business, my life, the lives of those people around me, whether my agent friends, my clients, my team, my family, right? Everyone is going to get a better version of me. And that's what I want. At the end of the day, I want you to win at life and at work, not just at work and lose at life or vice versa. This is how we do it, by implementing strategies, by implementing understandings, by actually taking the time to do the work. That's the heart behind this. And my hope is that all of us leave and say, I got to operate in who I am. Who am I? That's what the industry needs. And last thing, I'll end with this. I was at a men's retreat for my church, I don't know, years ago. And the speaker, who was a pastor friend of mine, he said this, and I think it applies to our business. But he said, you guys need to remember, God loves the real you, not the ideal you. And I think it's the same thing in our business. Our clients, our co-brokers, our team, they want to see the real you, not the ideal you. The real you is what aligns with me. I'm going to go build a business like that. The ideal you is I'm going to do everything and tell everybody that I'm good at everything because this is what real estate agents do. That's not true. They want to see the real you. Where's the authentic person that shows up for their clients, for their family, for the team, for the agents they're recruiting, for whatever it is? We wear masks in this industry a lot because we're taught to say everything's great, market's amazing, everything's awesome, right? And my fear is we've worn them so long to everybody else, we forgot to take them off for ourselves. How are we really doing? Are we really in alignment with who we are? Do we like how we're building this business? Because if we don't, guess what? Here's the beautiful thing. There's still time to change. We can build something that we're really proud of and that aligns with us and is going to help us serve and love the people around us even better. So I appreciate you guys. Sorry, that was extremely fast. I apologize. I talk fast anyways, but I hope some of that is maybe encouraging or supportive in any way.
Yeah, thank you so much, Garrett. If you guys have any questions, you can, while we have Garrett here for a few more minutes, you can drop them in the chat or just unmute, is fine. But I really appreciated this presentation, Garrett, because we were just talking about this morning, actually, how most trainings are, sort of the next shiny thing, or, how to rethink something. And I'm guilty of this too. And I love just taking a look at, where are you spending your time and really what does align with you, that permission to be the type of agent that you want to be versus maybe what everyone else says is a great agent or says the number of deals you should do or the volume you should have or whatever. So I really appreciated sort of that permission that we kind of forget to give ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we
Really
should be
good.
the ones defining the win, not the industry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah. Thanks,
Does
Stacey.
anybody have any, you bet, questions for Garrett? No, so well laid out. Your presentation was so well laid out. Garrett, tell them where to find your podcast and then when your book comes out and the name of it.
Yeah, thanks. So, podcast called the Christian Agent Podcast. You can just search anywhere and you'll find it. The book is called The Balanced Breakthrough: Winning at Work Without Losing at Life, and it comes out this fall, hopefully in November. So we'll keep you updated.
Exciting. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations on that.
thank
I
you.
know it's a labor of love. So,
It certainly is. Yes, I got to go
yeah,
work on it right now. Yeah. Thanks
awesome.
for having me, Stacey.
Yes, thank you, Garrett. Thanks everybody for coming. We appreciate it, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Bye.